All businesses really need a bank account to transact their financial dealings through. A bank account acts as a history to the transactions that people are going to make and do through their normal day-to-day business. And many banks, or all banks, offer different types of bank accounts. There are standard accounts called current accounts, which you have a checkbook account, and you can have deposit accounts where you can make some surpluses and savings go into that type of account. And then there are other types of accounts called investment accounts, which are there primarily for attracting interest once the business has made some additional profits. All banks offer a general service to their types of different customers. Social enterprises have their own specific needs and requirements from a bank. Some banks focus very much on that type of organisation. Other banks tend to focus on more personal and business banking, and it depends on what the needs are of that organisation that banks can tailor their services to it. All banks these days are required by law to prove the identity of the person or persons opening a bank account. Those documents can be made readily available through certified copies of those documents, including things like a valid UK passport or a valid driving licence and or a utility bill or bank statement from that person. Banks are required by the government through the anti-money law and regulations to prevent fraud that's going on these days more ripely. So organisations approaching the bank should come armed with some documentation to prove who they are and where they live. They also should bring with them perhaps their own business plan that they've written to tell the bank about what they're going to do and what their aspirations are, and some projections, financial projections about what they aim to do and how they're going to generate their money and where the money is going to be spent to. Because it's important for a bank to understand the business, understand what it's going to be trading as, so that it can report, if necessary, to the government. Before choosing a bank, an organisation ought to look at the ethics perhaps of a bank, look at where it's located, the types of services it's going to offer to that type of organisation. Many banks offer straightforward current accounts, which we've said about, deposit accounts, etc. But some banks offer additional services that a social enterprise might be interested in. For instance, internet banking is a very big thing these days. Some organisations have more than one person signing cheques on their bank account, and some organisations, some banks offer what they call dual or triple authority internet banking service, which is where there's more than one person involved in making a financial transaction, which goes with their governance and their mandate that they've signed to the bank. It also allows that there's not just one person in control of the finances, which is again a good way of protecting the assets of the organisation. Many banks, traditional banks, have got high street bank branches. They offer all sorts of different services, but there are a lot of new banks on the market these days that are specialist providers into banking for particular types of organisations. They offer a more dedicated service, more focused service on what types of business demands that organisation will have. A bank account is fairly easy to set up these days once the documentation has been provided by the organisation. A bank has to do its regulatory checks and profiles on those types of customers, but it can take between 3 to 7 days normally to get the account set up. This may take a little bit longer depending on the documentation that's been provided and the searches that the bank has to do on the individuals that are involved in the organisation. There's a mandate that has to be completed by any organisation, and each bank has its own different type of one, which sets out what the aims are of the organisation, who's going to act on the bank account, who wants internet banking access, for instance, and who's going to be the people organising the organisation where the correspondence should be sent to.